Hi everyone, my name is Natasha Westover and welcome to Accounted International. Today, as always, I'm joined by AK and we're going to talk about anxiety today and specifically what triggers anxiety. And we're actually going to do a couple of videos on this. This one being what triggers anxiety. AK's dogs are also here because I can hear them in my headset. Dogs get anxious too, you know. And another video we're going to do later this week is how anxiety has manifested itself in our lives. So let's be clear, AK and I are finance professionals. We've always worked in business. We're not medically trained, we're not doctors, and we're not mental health experts. But mental health is around us. AK and I have had bouts of anxiety over our careers, especially at different points in our careers. So it's not like we ever grew out of it, or it's not like we got more anxiety the more senior we've got. I've definitely had anxiety at every level of my career. And so we feel it's important to talk about it, but we are not professional experts. We are finance professional experts. So that said, we're going to talk about a few triggers that we found. They're examples for us, and obviously they're specifically in a finance job. And we thought it might be useful because when I heard someone else talk about anxiety for them, I was able to really compare it to me. And that's when I realized I had anxiety, and I've had anxiety at different points. So I'm going to kick it over to AK to get us started and talk about what triggers anxiety for him.
Most common themes I would say is volume of work. We all have multiple things to deliver, increased sort of volumes of deliverables, and I think it's one of those things. It's tough to prioritize and to be able to manage or recognize that you have more work than you're able to deal with at that point in time. And I guess that also includes sort of multiple deadlines. I find that the more deadlines you have, the more sort of deliverables you have, the more difficult it is to stay focused and sort of rationally deal with what's in front of you. You become emotional. You can quite easily lose focus on your key priorities. I think having multiple deliverables and having sort of high volumes of work to get through really starts you thinking, worrying about being able to achieve any of those deadlines, being able to deliver a decent quality piece of work, and as a result, that you end up not being able to deliver the immediate priorities. You find yourself flustered, and I think it's very difficult to sort of keep on top of those emotions, but at the same time, that is the nature of anxiety. You do sort of get flustered and lost, and I think identifying when you have more on your plate than you can deal with is a difficult skill, but one that you need to be aware of. And I guess the other thing on the back of that is it tends to push you outside of your comfort zone. Some of these projects can be completely left field, stuff you haven't done before. It might be presentations, presenting to senior execs. It might be presenting to external parties. It might be, as you found, Natasha, dealing with a group of school children. These things, they aren't the run of the mill, and they take a bit of fathoming out, and I guess you're always going to get butterflies. You're always going to sort of suffer from I won't say panic attacks, but certainly anxieties and challenges in terms of dealing with them. What do you say on that, Tash?
Okay. Yeah, I can, as you're going through them, I can totally recognize them as well. Definitely on deadlines, I would say consistent deadlines that often lead to like lots and lots of short-term deadlines. Really, especially when I was first starting my career, I just felt like there was a lot, and I guess I was micromanaged more. So I felt like there was always a deadline hanging over my head, and I definitely became overwhelmed with that and anxious to a certain extent at one point in my career. You also mentioned about saying no. It's not only about saying no, it's about getting anxious about saying no. For me, that's how it looked. And I wasn't proficient at saying no, setting a boundary. I hadn't practiced. That wasn't my upbringing. No one really helped me with that at school and in my education. So the inability to say no made me anxious as a thing I needed to do in my career. And the other thing for me is that I've never been very good at separating things happening outside of my work and inside my job. And so work could be going really well, but external of work, if there were things falling apart, I would often bring that into the workplace and therefore start getting anxious. It would come out in my behavior and my performance at work. And so I'm just not one of those people who can separate the two, and I always hold it in me. So even if I'm anxious about something at work or something outside of work, it kind of it's with me 24/7. I've never been able to separate that. And I think that's a good thing to say to people, because sometimes you're like, I don't get it, work's going really, really well, but what else is going on in your life? And is it all becoming one big ball of anxiety? Because it does for me. So that's sort of what I wanted to say off the back of yours. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I think you're absolutely right. You know, we all love to please. We all love to be able to achieve everybody else's sort of wishes and keep everyone happy. So the ability to actually recognize that you've got too much on, whether it's in your personal life or at work, and say, look, I'm really sorry, I'm not able to do that now, or I'm not able to get involved in that. That's absolutely a vital sort of skill to develop. Like you say, you it's best not to be blunt about it, but at the same time, you can, people will understand as long as you give them some context. As long as you make them aware that you have far too much on your plate, then the majority of people will understand that and will take that into account. Certainly, as a responsible employer, that's what you should be looking to do, is to take on board people's current mental state. It's increasingly prevalent that people have mental health issues. I think just try and communicate with the people you're working with and people at home, so that they perhaps understand a bit more about where your anxiety is coming from.
Yeah, I think as you were talking, I mean, this video today, I really would like people to understand some of our triggers. But as you were talking, you started talking about how you might go about setting that boundary and being able to say no. And I would like us to do some more videos on that, because, excuse me, I've got a horrible hay fever this morning. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about thinking about how you might set a boundary. And also, you just mentioned about talking to your manager or people at work. Can't talk. You've just mentioned talking to your manager, people at work about your anxiety or your mental health. That's actually quite a difficult thing to do. And it takes practice, it takes small steps, it takes understanding, reading the audience and seeing if they're able to receive that information. And I think we're seeing a change at the moment, but it's still very, very slow. So I'd like us to talk more about that in future, AK, because I think it will be useful. But today is really just us being able to talk about our triggers and what we've seen that sort of gets us into that place of overwhelm that then leads on to this feeling of anxiety. So I just want to make that clear that there's more to come. Do you have anything else to add?
Absolutely, yeah. I think yeah, I think it's one of those. Excuse me. I think it's contagious. I think it's one of those things that, yeah, you're right. You know, the mental health arena is you know, becoming you know, more. People are becoming more aware of it, and you know, we are hopefully able to communicate more about it. But in the meantime, yeah, absolutely. I think everyone will have their own triggers. You know, obviously, some of those may correlate with what we've said, but there may be others that you know are personal. And I think the ability to recognise those triggers and hopefully then manage your anxiety is an important skill to learn.
Definitely. Okay, everyone, thank you for your time. We'll see you in the next video.